Welcome to the Dark Nook Monster Shop. It's time for another monster kitbash using Halloween skeleton decorations from the dollar store. I don't know about you, but I love skeletons for things that don't actually have skeletons or have exoskeletons like this spider and this scorpion. A scorpion's skeleton is just its normal body. That's its skeleton. But anyway, I start by disassembling these skeletons. And a lot like shape shopping, I start looking for shapes. This gets easier as you take them apart. You start to notice their potential to be something else. Now what is this? Is this supposed to be a tail? You know, somebody in an office somewhere made this decision. Yeah, hey, we can save 9 cents per unit. And some guy with a cigar was like, do it! Nobody'll care! Except some idiot on the internet who's using it for parts to make a monster. The bottom jaw here gives me an idea. First, I have to cut off these legs, and, by the way, don't use utility knives for this sort of thing. Get flush cut angle shears like these to snip off plastic bits of plastic things, and send them into orbit. Yeah, that piece is gone forever. It belongs to the universe now. Once I snip off all the legs, this body looks like a pretty good head shape. Kind of a xenomorph vibe. And with that jaw, now it's starting to take shape. But he needs a body. So I snip the limbs off the plastic cat skeleton, and I think I have to keep saying plastic because all YouTube sees when it looks at the transcript of this video is a discussion about dismembering small animals. I don't want that. That can't be good for the algorithm. Unless you're Mr. Beast. I'm sure the Mr. Beast discusses dismembering 1,000 small animals video would get 52 million views in the first 24 hours. But I digress. I keep taking bits apart and test fitting different shapes. I'm getting the idea I want this guy to be long and kind of like an aquatic reptile, somewhere between a gator and a sea snake. Eventually, I settle out on the basic idea and the parts I'm going to use, so I put the rest away in my skeleton bits box for use later. I also picked up this gecko skeleton, which I wanted for the weird looking almost human hands. I want this guy to have a dose of Randall Boggs from Monsters Inc. I always thought that guy was pretty creepy. And now I want to make these wings into big mantis-like arms, so I only want to cut off just these 2 middle bits. So, like I was saying, I want to carefully trim just the 2 middle bits off this wing, like that. So yeah, I messed up the other one on purpose, so I can now show you how to fix it. Or as we call it in special effects, hiding your crimes. You'd be amazed how many screw-ups can be fixed with some hot glue and floral wire. This is one of the limbs that's going to support the weight of the piece, so I really have to wire it up good and hot glue it back together. Now when I paint over it, you'll never be able to tell. Then I glue the head to the body, and I start figuring out how I'm going to attach the legs. I want him rearing back a bit in a kind of attack pose, like he's just snapped out these big retractable claws. I also have this idea of a bunch of little legs, hiding the 2 big mantis claws up under his body. I start filling out the rest of the body by adding on new shapes, and then I attach the back legs. Then, I deploy more hot glue and floral wire, which works great with this cheap light plastic. Just to hold it together, reinforce it, give it a little bit more stability. I keep adding to the body. I glue on what's left of the gecko skeleton to give it a nice cool curly tail, which by the way is 10 times longer than the cat's tail. What's the deal with that? Anyway, I glue it in place, and then I add the mantis claws. Now, just hot glue is enough to hold these on, but they won't carry the weight. They'll jiggle a little bit and pop right off, so I have to support the weight of the piece with these little cups while I glue the legs on and reinforce them. Then I bust out the ghetto green stuff, plumber's putty. I mix up a batch and then use it to secure the legs. Think of it like an exoskeleton. The glue will hold the leg on, but the epoxy putty will harden and carry the weight of the piece right around that glued connection. I wet my fingers and smooth out a bit of putty into a nice flat piece to use on the neck. It's a good connection on the neck, but it could still use some reinforcement. And when the ghetto green stuff cures, all the putty bits will be the strongest part of this whole thing. Next, I add the jaw. Once that's glued on, I add some little pedipalp style mouth claws. Although I don't know if they're technically pedipalps if they're off to the side. I just tack on some of those little scorpion legs with a little bit of hot glue. Then I glue on the little arms. I accidentally glued on the others without turning on the camera. But it's all the same process as these two. I liked this. I used the jaw from the plastic bat skeleton to make little head fins. And I used the bat wing fingers that I cut off to make antenna. So I'm not really doing any sculpting in this piece, but I'm going to mix up a bunch of foam clay paste and paint that over the surface. I'm just going to glob the paste on, smooth it with a little water, to fill in the gaps and cover any of the wire that's exposed. I just smoosh it in with my fingers, and then I use that crochet hook to smooth it a bit. When that dries, I do it again. This time with a slightly thinner batch of foam clay, which just means I add a little bit more Mod Podge and a little water to it. The idea is to just paint over the bones to create a skin without losing too much of the bone detail. I thought about adding some muscle, but to be honest, I did 4 projects and videos in October, and this one was a little rushed. But I'm nothing if not a master of half-assery, so I also wanted to show you how you can make a whole new creature without having to sculpt a bunch of intricate details. Because if you're going to sculpt a bunch of details, at that point it's just easier to sculpt the whole thing. So, I paint over the entire surface with foam clay paste and use the paste to fill in the seams and cracks. I use a bit of foam clay to fill in the hole around the neck, and then to patch up the holes on the sides of the body. I kinda have this idea of a creature with a neck that can extend out from the body to snatch up the prey it's pinned down. Like its mantis spike arms fold up under its body, and the head retracts back, so it looks kind of unassuming and unthreatening, like a little lizard guy. He's cute, right? Then snap! Out shoot the claws and you're pinned down and his head stretches out all weird and slow to start ripping chunks off. I patch up the belly and then glob on a bunch more thinned down foam clay paste. I want to fill in the gaps between the ribs without losing the rib shape. I also pack in some clay to the areas inside the back of the legs and smooth those out. Then I use a bit of foam clay to cover the back of the jaw and make it into an actual mouth. I just cover it with a flattened out bit of foam clay and smooth down the edges. I mean, I don't even really know if you can call that sculpting. Then I add in more foam clay paste to blend those pieces to the rest of the skin, and I let that all dry. And now it's time for paint. I base it out in white, and I use a brush to really make sure I get in every nook and cranny. Then I use an airbrush to paint green over the whole body. Then I paint on some stripes with a darker green. And next, I dust the surface with yellow tinted Mod Podge glaze. And then the eyes, just black, dead eyes, like a doll's eyes, shark eyes. After that, I paint the head fins in dark purple. And then I give them a few little pinstripes down the back. And some pink in the mouth. Now this part's a little weird. I paint the teeth on the rat jaw that I used to make the fins on his head, kinda giving him a second little mouth. Or maybe his nose has teeth. I don't know which, but I just thought it looked kinda cool. I paint all the teeth and the claw tips white. Then I go over the stripes with a blue wash, just to make them pop a little bit louder. And then I give it a final dusting with a little more of that Mod Podge and yellow mix. And by the way, this yellow is highly blacklight reactive, so stay tuned to the end to see what that looks like. Last, I paint a little bit of UV resin on the eyes and in the mouth. And I give it a final blast of UV light to cure the resin. And once it's cured, this skeleton Kitbash monster is all done. Thanks for checking out my video. Please hit like, leave a comment, and subscribe for more creepy creations from the Dark Nook Monster Shop.